Okay, imagine this.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a warrior standing right on the brink of a huge battle,
Yeah.
weapon ready. But then he looks out and sees, well, family,
Mm-hmm.
brothers, cousins,
Mm-hmm.
and his heart just breaks, torn, and guiding his chariot. There's this figure, incredibly wise, ready to talk him through this huge moral crisis.
That's basically the opening scene, right? Arjuna on the battlefield in the Bhagavad Gita.
Exactly. And that struggle, that very human internal conflict,
Yeah.
that's really what pulled you into the Gita. People often think of it just as a religious text, but as our sources show, and we've looked at philosophical analyses, online discussions, essays, it's actually much broader. It's this deep well of philosophical insight and maybe surprisingly practical advice for, getting through life today.
Absolutely. So for this deep dive, think of it as us trying to pull out the really valuable stuff, the key insights from centuries of wisdom, those
Right.
moments that make you go, aha.
We want to explore the core ideas, look at them from different angles,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully leave you feeling like you've really learned something useful without getting totally overwhelmed.
And we've got a great mix of perspectives lined up. Everything from Reddit discussions on Artha Gita to deep dives in the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, some practical stuff from Bhakti Marga Ireland, even management insights from IM Bangalore.
Oh, interesting.
And then there's the literary angle from essays on the Gita. So the goal is to really get a handle on the main teachings, especially these big concepts of duty, dharma, and selfless action, karma yoga.
Okay, so let's unpack that battlefield scene first. Arjuna, this amazing warrior, facing, well, the unthinkable,
Mm-hmm.
fighting his own relatives.
Mm-hmm.
And his charioteer is Krishna, who, as you find in the Reddit stuff and the Encyclopedia of Philosophy, isn't just some driver. He's seen as the supreme lord.
Yeah, that's crucial.
So this isn't just armies clashing. It's a deep personal ethical meltdown for Arjuna.
And what's fascinating is why he initially doesn't want to fight. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy points out his arguments aren't just raw emotion. He's actually using what we recognize as ethical frameworks, thinking about virtues, consequences, duties. He's weighing it all up and thinking, no, fighting is wrong here.
But then Essays on the Gita adds this really interesting layer. It suggests maybe Arjuna's hesitation isn't purely about universal compassion,
Right.
but maybe more from self-pity and this strong emotional tie to his people.
Mm.
Makes you wonder, is it broad ethics or something more, well, personal, maybe a bit self-focused?
And that's the perfect setup for Krishna's response. Because he doesn't just argue within those same conventional moral boxes. He sort of pivots.
Yeah.
He introduces these alternative ways of thinking, karma yoga and bhakti yoga. Karma yoga, as the encyclopedia explains it, is basically doing your duty, your required actions, but without getting hung up on the results.
Okay. Detachment.
Yes. And bhakti yoga offers a different angle entirely, where right action flows from devotion to a higher ideal, not just from calculating the good outcome.
So karma yoga, it's about doing your part, your specific duty, your dharma, and not worrying so much about whether you win or lose, succeed or fail.
Exactly. It's about the process. Bhakti Marga Ireland actually gives some practical tips on this. Detach from the outcomes, try to stay balanced, be disciplined in what you do.
It's about the how,
Mm-hmm.
not just the what happens next.
Precisely. And the encyclopedia highlights how this differs from a lot of conventional morality, which often focuses on achieving a good result, something we can't always control.
Right.
Karma yoga shifts the focus to the right action, the thing you can control. And interestingly, the source suggests this shift can actually protect you from being manipulated by people who might ignore morality to get what they want.
That's a useful insight.
Mm-hmm.
And bhakti yoga, that's the devotion path. Devotion to Krishna in this context.
Mm-hmm. Devotion to the ideal, represented by Krishna here. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy explains it as your devotion defines what's right, and the good results are seen as flowing from that devotion. It's a different kind of moral compass.
Okay, let's dig into that idea of dharma a bit more. Duty. The RKT blog team article quotes Gita 3.35, which is pretty powerful. It is better to fail in one's own dharma than to succeed in the dharma of another.
Wow, yeah. That really hits home.
It really emphasizes understanding your specific role, your nature, and acting from that place. It's about alignment with yourself, your responsibilities.
And the RKT blog uses that story of Lord Rama from the Ramayana.
Oh yeah, accepting exile.
Right, accepting this huge personal cost because it was his dharma. That selfless action, that trust in something bigger, it really shows the weight of this concept.
Essays on the Gita connects dharma to these concepts of swabhava, which is like your own innate nature, your core being,
Mm-hmm.
and swadharma, the duty or law of action that fits that nature.
Yeah.
The argument is it's better to follow your own path, even imperfectly, than to try and perfectly copy someone else's path if it's not truly yours.
That resonates. It's about authenticity in action.
Yeah. And Essays on the Gita also mentions the traditional social structure, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and how their duties were seen as arising from their inherent qualities, their gunas, and their specific nature. So your role wasn't arbitrary. It was seen as an expression of who you fundamentally were.
Okay, so if Dharma is about your specific nature and duty, how does selfless action fit in? The Wikipedia entry on karma yoga makes it clear this isn't about passivity. It's not about doing nothing.
Right, it's action.
It's active engagement, but without being driven purely by desire for results or fear of failure. The key, it seems, is offering up the results, the fruits of your actions, to, well, the divine, or something larger than your own ego.
And Wikipedia suggests this practice has real benefits, right? Like inner purification, spiritual growth.
Equanimity, inner peace, yeah. It seems by letting go of ego and selfish motives, you actually gain a kind of freedom.
That I Am Bangalore article brings a modern angle to applying it to management. That's fascinating.
It really is. The idea is that the Gita encourages focusing on the means, like the process, the integrity of how you work, rather than being solely obsessed with the ends, the results.
So put your energy into doing the task well, with the right intention, rather than just chasing the outcome.
Kind of, yeah. It's a shift in focus. Very relevant today with all the pressure on hitting targets.
Definitely. Essays on the Gita calls this desireless works, like doing things as an offering, without needing personal gain from it. The motivation shifts from ambition to something else.
Something perhaps more sustainable or meaningful.
Maybe. Now, zooming out a bit, Essays on the Gita talks about the Gita's bigger aim, reconciling our inner spiritual life with our outer actions, moving beyond just simple ethical trade-offs.
Finding a kind of integration, a harmony between inner truth and outer life.
Yeah. And it introduces these gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, these fundamental qualities or energies of nature that influence everything we do.
Right, like sattva's clarity, goodness. Rajas is passion and activity. Tamas is inertia, darkness.
And the idea is that moving beyond the pull of these gunas leads to greater spiritual freedom.
That seems to be the path outlined. And finally, Essays on the Gita touches on the ultimate reality, the divine, called Purushottama, something beyond both the changing world and the unchanging essence.
And our actions can be offered to that as a sacrifice or devotion.
That's the concept. It connects the path of action back to the ultimate spiritual goal.
So putting it all together, the Gita isn't just rules. It's this really deep philosophy of action, of being, that feels surprisingly relevant for navigating, well, life.
Absolutely. So for you listening in, the key takeaways are pretty profound. First, this idea of understanding your own nature, your dharma, and acting in line with it. That's huge. Second, practicing karma yoga, acting selflessly without being completely tied to the results.
Yeah, letting go of that attachment.
And third, realizing that even difficult duties, the challenging stuff we face, can actually be a way to grow personally and spiritually.
Okay, so here's something to chew on after this. How might consciously trying to act selflessly, focusing more on your inherent duties and the action itself, rather than just the outcome, how might that shift your perspective on your current challenges or goals?
Yeah, and could understanding your swabhava, your unique nature, better actually lead you to more fulfilling and maybe even more effective ways of acting? It's about that balance between what you do and why you're doing it.
Definitely food for thought. And really, this has just been a quick exploration.
Oh, absolutely. Just scratching the surface.
We really encourage you to check out the sources we mentioned, maybe even pick up the Bhagavad Gita itself. There are so many more layers to uncover.